bridge collapsed. The mountain road washed out. All the signs are obscured by fog. Your only directions are detours. Eventually it dawns on you. Sometimes you need to get lost to discover where you're supposed to be. Welcome to Merlin's Barn.
Good evening and welcome to Fort Blanket, south of the Yukon, recording Merlin's Barn.
Hello, and yeah, it's evening or morning or that's the same thing that we keep discussing. It's evening for us. God only knows what time it is for you.
Man.
And tonight we have myself
And Tasha.
You heard Tasha, and we don't have Matt because he's in the land of cheese. He is off at some sort of training thing in Wisconsin.
Good for him.
So yes, the land of cheese. We'll get to that at some point. My trip to Alaska and the experience in Wisconsin of seeing people lining up at 7:30 in the morning outside the cheese shop because I guess cheese is that exciting.
No.
It's cheese. It's that exciting.
No.
You have to go to Wisconsin to it. But what about our friends up the hill? I mean, they're Wisconsinites.
That's different. John and Bonnie are different. They're friends.
Okay,
they're not cheese.
Well, they're not cheese, but they could probably explain on an episode the Wisconsin obsession with cheese.
I just don't like cheese. I'm just not a cheese person. I can't eat
I'm
street cheese.
lactose intolerant and I like cheese.
Well, I just can't eat street cheese. I just don't like it. I'm allowed to not like things.
Many levels of judgment and disappointment here. In Matt's absence, we are going to open the traditional disappointment cookies before moving on into our program where this may take 2 episodes to cover, which would be why we went to Xenia, Ohio.
Which is another place no one should go.
Yeah, it's on that sort of like Bermuda Triangle of places not to go to. South Bend, Indiana, which will be a whole episode or 2 in itself.
I haven't been there and it gives me the creeps.
Yeah, no. And Xenia, Ohio. Other places, Harrisburg. I don't know, I drive through Harrisburg a lot, and I don't think Harrisburg needs to be there either. Sometimes I question whether whole states need to be there, like Rhode Island or Delaware. I mean, really?
Delaware has some nice beaches. One is called Slaughter Beach, and Bethany is quite nice.
Yeah, okay, so...
It's got a good crepe shop and a good comic shop.
Delaware's got more things going for it. But
yes,
Xenia, Ohio, yeah, we'll get back to them in a minute. First off, we're going to start off with our disappointment cookies. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Let's see, which one do I want? Oh, no, I dropped that.
You're new to us. The disappointment cookies are the Chinese fortune cookies that come from our local Chinese food restaurant because traditionally we record on Wednesday nights and we get the fortune cookies, and we've just generally found that
they're upsetting.
They're upsettingly disappointing.
Triggering even.
Yes, including like my favorite one about mental health, which I'll post up on the Instagram. All right, what'd you get?
Enthusiasm attracts others. Am I enthusiastic enough for you?
All right. Craziness attracts others too. Fires attract others, and people come and put them out. So.
Is that what I am?
I'm not sure. I'm still judging the cheese issue, actually. All right. So I got embrace each day with an open heart and a keen eye for opportunities. All right. So that wasn't really fortune. It was a disappointment cookie.
And for Matt.
Yes, for Matt, who is off in cheese land.
The cookie was already broken. I don't know what that means.
It's a disappointment cookie, so it's going to be disappointing.
What is Matt's fortune? Aww. It's not really a fortune, but it's true about Matt.
Oh.
Your kindness will be appreciated by others. But yeah, that's Matt in a nutshell.
Yeah, okay. So that's a Matt cookie. It's not a disappointment cookie. Our Chinese food restaurant is actually an absolutely wonderful place. Tonight, they actually forgot our order, and it's a couple who runs it, and she was quite disappointed, and I'm just sitting there going, I've lived here for 6 years now. They've never screwed up a single order. I can't even begin to be mildly upset. Maybe a little bit confused, but...
Yet she insisted that we only pay half price. And so I think it's supposed to be like $20, $25. So I gave her the 10 that she wanted, but then I was like, no, I'm putting this extra 5 in your tip jar at the very least, ma'am. It's always so nice. There's lovely energy.
They're the types of people that when a lot of the Chinese restaurants closed down during COVID, people were more upset over the fact that they couldn't see them. I think over the food. When they reopened finally, everybody was all excited and talking on the town page about how they'd get to see their favorite people again. It was ridiculously cute. But we could probably just do a whole other episode on Chinese food restaurants. So we're going to get back to our favorite place, Xenia, Ohio, and why we were there and all sorts of things. So it may have been mentioned in an episode at this point, but we're part of a weird subsection of society called reenactors. And I'm specifically not going to do a lot of reenactor-related episodes because there's podcasts for that. And you can go listen to the reenactor podcast if you're a reenactor, and we're just going to lose people if we get into reenactor in-jokes. So long and the short of it, people who are really interested in a time period who dress up in funny uniforms from that time period to teach other people about it. So you've probably seen a Civil War reenactment or a Revolutionary War reenactment. Well, they also have other eras, and we do World War II, specifically 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion. As an airborne unit,
as of note, Merlin is the only potential actual Canadian we have.
Yes, I only found out last year that because that I should be applying for my dual citizenship because people ask, why do you do a Canadian unit? And I keep going, well, my family's from Canada. And then a friend pointed out, by the way, you do realize that you're probably Canadian and you should fill out your paperwork. So we're working on that.
I just kind of got stuck here. Kind of happened.
Well, it's better than my mother, who was born in Montreal and is forever unhappy that she got dragged down to the United States and just wants to go home. So we do 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion. It's an airborne unit, which means people hurling themselves out of perfectly good airplanes to jump into the darkness and get shot at and then form up on the ground and attack. So that's what we do. There's a website, para.org, where you can find out more about it. And we actually have a couple guys who do not only throw themselves out of perfectly good airplanes, but throw themselves out of perfectly good airplanes using vintage-style parachutes, like the ones from World War II.
I believe it is the round top canopies.
Yeah, round canopy parachutes. And so there's a few places in the U.S. that do this.
And they actually do it out of the C-47s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they do it out of the proper World War II airplanes. So with that, this is why we're getting to Xenia, Ohio. On the 70th anniversary of D-Day, and that would be, I think, 2014, 70th anniversary.
Which one am I?
That would be 75th. By the way, we don't teach math for a reason. So the 70th, yes.
I only think about that because that's when I graduated and I was supposed to go to the 75th. And so I wasn't, so I got my numbers mixed up.
Yeah, no, I kept thinking 75th too, but Peewee would have been 99. So on the 70th anniversary D-Day, a fellow named Peewee Martin, who was a 101st Airborne veteran, jumped at the age of 94. And then he did it again a couple years later. Well, when it came around to his 100th birthday, they decided, a bunch of the airborne jump schools decided that they would have a 100th birthday jump fest and a last reunion for the surviving members of the World War II 101st. So because we have guys who hurled themselves out of perfectly good airplanes, we were invited to go out and set up our encampment in Xenia, Ohio. And what that involves is usually we have a World War II Jeep or two. We have all the equipment that the guys used.
We have the tents, the bell tent, regular, I don't know, it looks like a little, not a pup tent, but a personal tent. There we go.
The wall tent.
Yes.
And then you have,
kitchen, field cooking.
Yes, where we did actual field cooking. Your display.
I do medical.
I do just about everything. Because
Stretchers are very comfy to sleep on. Fun fact.
Tasha lives on the stretcher. If you look at any
It's
photograph
cozy.
from an event, Tasha is on the stretcher. I'm not picking on you. Just here we go.
My priority is to be cozy. My stretcher is cozy.
So we're invited to this, and we planned for it because we realized that, well, first off, this is 2021 that this is happening, April 2021. We've had the year of 2020 where everything got shut down. So we've got people biting at the bit to get out and do something. And on top of that, this is a historic event. I mean, how many times are you going to be invited to a World War II veteran's 100th birthday where there's World War II airplanes flying overhead, some of which your guys might have jumped out of, and there will be what's called a string? It's a string, right?
Yes.
Where there'll be
String of jumps.
where there'll be strings of jumpers jumping out of these planes. And so it was sort of a no-brainer. It's like, okay, we're doing an 8-hour drive out there. And so we planned for it, and I got permission from my school to take a couple more days off than usual. So we were going to be driving out on the Thursday. And on the Sunday, I was working around my property, working around the barn, threw a couple things in the dumpster, got on the lawnmower, mowed the lawn a little bit. Something felt weird. It was not good. And I felt down around my belly button, and there was something protruding a little bit, which probably, well, definitely, I found out within 24 hours should not have been protruding. And I was thinking, okay, well, that maybe this is just I pulled something. We'll see what happened. And I go inside, and obviously I'm miserable, and I'm also half Swedish and stubborn. Tried to go to bed, was nauseous, was in a huge amount of pain. And I think it was around 5 in the morning that I'm walking in circles in my living room, moaning. And the cats are all just in a line staring at me with concern. That I realized, yes, something is definitively wrong. All the gas X in the world or whatever else I can find is not going to clear this up. And accepted that I was going to the hospital. And at the time, living on my own in the barn, that meant I threw together my briefcase because I was like, I don't know how long I'm going to be there. Threw together my briefcase with my laptop, some books, and headed up to Gettysburg Hospital. Which I have to say, every time I've ended up there, whether it was, and I think this might have been my first time going for myself, they've always had my friend that I've been with or whoever in a room very quickly. So I get up there. I think I've called my parents and told them what I'm doing. Get myself in the door, explain what's going on, and it being the Gettysburg ER, I'm in a room very quickly. And the head of the ER wanders in as they've got me sitting up on a bed and takes a look at my belly and goes and just looks at me and says, I am so sorry, and then presses on the protrusion. At which point I yelp, and he stares at it and he goes, that's not going back. And he looks at me and says, okay, I'm going to talk to the head of surgery. And he comes back about a half hour later. He says, all right, we're going to have you in surgery around 1 in the afternoon. Flips on the TV for me. And what was I watching, Tasha?
At one point, you text me a picture of your feet in the footy socks, and there was Smash playing on the TV, which was just very pleasing. MASH in the hospital? What's better than that?
Then MASH is Tasha's favorite TV show. So, but yeah. I thought it was quite funny that I'm sitting there watching MASH as they've got me hepped up on whatever goofballs they had me hepped up on. But my big concern through this whole thing is, oh crap, we're supposed to be driving out for Peewee's birthday on Thursday. So they get me in surgery. I'm out of surgery. I had my friend's father John and his wife Diane came out to pick me up. My friend, God rest his soul, John LeBron, came out, and then he set up chairs around the house so I could move myself around the house. And I think by 5 in the afternoon I was home. And my next concern was I was supposed to be towing my World War II Jeep to Xenia, Ohio on Thursday. So I rested, and Tasha's over there making faces, but I rested, and the following morning, I just realized my job for the next couple days was going to be going down to seeing if I can make it downstairs, seeing if I can get into my Jeep, which is one of those four-door Jeeps, and then see if I can move it, like drive it without screaming. So I got down there Tuesday morning. No, that was bad. Tuesday afternoon, still bad. Tuesday evening, not as horrible. By Wednesday afternoon, I could get in the Jeep, start it, and drive it around the block without screaming, which to me was, hey, we're going to this historic event. However, I'm not towing my World War II Jeep behind me because I can't get out and get under it if something goes wrong. So, but did everybody meet here?
That's usually how it works.
I really don't remember that day other than driving.
I know Haley and I have to have come here. Paul picked up the trailer. Yeah, I think it would have been Haley and I came here. Paul came to pick up the trailer. Haley rode with you for a bit, and I rode with Paul.
And then Roger was driving his own van.
Yes.
And so we head out. And it's supposed to be like a 7 to 8 hour drive. I believe it took much longer than that. We traded off. Tasha would ride with me. Tasha would ride with their uncle. Haley would ride with me. We'd swap back and forth. Tasha's uncle Paul was using his Dodge that literally, as it drove along, the wind would just take pieces of rust and blow them away from it, so the truck became less of a truck every mile that it went down the highway.
And he still has it. At this current moment, last I know, he still has that truck.
Its exhaust was exhaust in memory only. There had been an exhaust. There was enough of an exhaust there that it was holding the pipes on, amazingly. But other than that, there was nothing. So we get to Xenia. And as a note, we really didn't have a huge amount of sleeping plans. The sleeping plans were we're going to get there, we're going to set up a tent. I was going to be insanely miserable. Yes.
As note, on our way up, one time Paul tried to fill up with gas, and all the gas kind of just came back out.
Part of the bad planning wasn't totally, I had my gear packed, but when one of our riders was asked, do you have camping gear, do you have warm stuff? And we were standing next to a closet filled with spare camping gear, cots, and warm stuff. This individual declared that they were fine. And so when we got to Xenia and it's overcast and it's freezing out and there's wind blowing as we're trying to put up tents.
I could not feel my hands, but at least Roger had the most wonderful time holding the center pole of the bell tent, essentially pole dancing, singing ABBA, where this is a Swedish man in his prime in the cold.
He was cold. He was happy. What was he saying? Dancing Queen?
I'm pretty sure it was Dancing Queen, and he was dancing around the pole with it.
And you have to figure Roger's about a little bit over 6 foot tall, over 300 pounds, with a handlebar waxed mustache. We'll post a picture of him for reference. He is
iconic.
A wonderful human who has also sadly left us. So we get ourselves set up in the evening, and as we get ourselves set up, we're realizing the cold, and then we're realizing that individuals don't actually have camping gear. So we have a conversation about when the nice man with the closet filled with camping gear asks you if you need warm things, much like in Ghostbusters when they said to Ray, next time someone asks if you're a god, you say yes. When you're asked if you need the warm things, you say yes. Because we got there and this one individual was just freezing and apparently had none of the camping gear required.
I think part of it was we weren't expecting it to be that starkly cold.
This is called a learning experience, boys and girls. Always expect it to be freaking cold. So we found Tasha and Haley motel that
Motel.
I don't know. Do you have a description for your room in there? Because this was par for course with Xenia, Ohio. Honestly,
It's kind of plain. Didn't see any bed bugs. I think there were 2 beds, but Haley and I being us, we probably slept together because it was cold and we needed warmth. I was a little nervous to touch the bathtub. Didn't quite trust the drinking, to drink out of the faucet. I do remember there being some Paw Patrol stickers and Batman stickers though left by a child. That made me very happy.
one thing that I noticed when I wandered into the room was the amount of time cigarettes had been put out on things. The countertop around the sink was just all cigarette burns.
Sometimes we put those things out of our mind and live in the joyful bliss of it is warm.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot blocked out. But so we're looking at this, and then Roger had offered for me to stay with him at the Ramada across town, and we felt bad leaving Tasha and Haley in. I just don't have a description for the skank zone, basically.
Yeah.
And we head off to what we slowly came to call the Hotel Ramadi. We got across town. Now, Xenia, Ohio's claim to fame is that a tornado hit in the 1980s. As far as I can tell, they never rebuilt.
Wasn't there something about it hung up in the Tim Hortons there? Wasn't it like that was the one time they had to remodel the Tim Hortons?
I don't know if it existed in the 80s. I'm not sure.
But there was definitely an article about it hung up on the wall in the Tim Hortons.
It was also the most battered Tim Hortons I've ever run into. It was like a step above. It was really a step above your hotel.
I would not argue against staying in a Tim Hortons.
Except for that one, which was about the level of your hotel.
Well, that hotel, Tim Hortons.
So yeah. Roger and I get out to Hotel Ramada, which doesn't happen to have any signs. Get in. It's a mess. We found out later that basically it had been used for a year or two as a dormitory for the local college, and the college students had just destroyed it. So they give us a room. We go upstairs. I am desperate to use the bathroom because I haven't used the bathroom in a certain way for a couple days since the surgery, and somebody had just given me a whole pile of wonderful laxative type things. We'll just put it as that. And we get down the hallway. I'm almost dancing. We get in the hotel, and it smells like the whole hotel room smells like feces, and the beds are tossed. Everything's a mess. Roger's standing there just going, "Oh God, no." And I said to him, "We need another room, but I'm going to go destroy the bathroom quickly." Because
at that point, no one could tell.
No, nobody could tell. So we go back downstairs. They're very confused. They thought somebody just cleaned the room. We're just like, no, that never happened. And we head upstairs to our new and exciting room that had such wonderful and amazing features as an air conditioning HVAC unit that provided both heat and air, that every about 10 to 15 minutes would make a screaming sound that sounded like aliens were trying to claw their way in from another dimension.
Do you think you could give us an example of that noise?
I can't right now. No, I really can't. It was horrific.
Oh.
Then the bathroom had anything metal in the bathroom was rusting, including the folding ironing board.
Oh.
It just got to the point where basically Roger and I were trying to sleep that night, and every single time the air conditioning or the heater kicks in, the bearings start to squeal as they give out their last dry, greaseless turn. One of us would just start giggling because it was literally all that you could do. Yeah, Friday we had the camp set up. We discovered that things were insanely disorganized.
I do appreciate, though, we had stopped at Tim Hortons for breakfast, as is part of the course here.
By the way, they're not a sponsor of ours. We're just obsessed with them.
We had gone to Tim Hortons, of course. We're in our Canadian uniforms, and we walk in holding our Tim Hortons cups. And the Brits next door are like, "Oh, of course the Canadians have found the Tim Hortons already."
But we got out there. We had, I don't know, they had a nice little arrangement of public. We had, I think one of my favorite stories from the day was, I mean, it was amazing watching the planes go over and just drop just string after string of jumpers. I mean, usually you go to an air show and you'll see a C-47 go over,
It was like 4 or 5.
and 4 or 5 guys will
This was like
jump.
2 or 3 sticks. Like
That's a stick rather than string. I was using the wrong term. So yeah, a stick of guys come in, and so you'd see the plane go over, and a stick of what, maybe like 7 guys would jump,
mm-hmm.
and then the plane would come around, and you get another stick, and then another. Then you'd have another plane come over, and more people. So it was amazing to watch.
Wasn't there someone who ended up landing instead of in the DZ on someone's roof?
Yes. Although the poor person who landed on the roof was much better than the guy down at Virginia Beach who ended up hanging in a tree in the impenetrable forest for half a day.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, but we did have one of my favorite things was there was a museum set up next to us. We met a lot of really amazing reenactors who were just so impressed that this little group of Canadian reenactors had driven over 8 hours from the East Coast to their event. But once again, we had 2 of our guys were jumping, and when else is something like this going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
But there was a Veterans Memorial Museum that's local to that area. And the fellow running the Veterans Memorial Museum had a World War II veteran with him named Charles Davis. And Charles Davis turned out with something called 17th Airborne. Long and the short, his group, and he and his twin brother were in. His group jumped at one of the operations that our guys jumped at, called Operation Varsity in World War II, where they crossed the Rhine. So we're just like, oh, cool. This guy actually might have seen some of our guys. And it turned out he did. Mm-hmm. We had some neat conversations with him, but it was cold and it was
just miserable.
It was a miserable day. So he's all wrapped up in a blanket and very unhappy. And so eventually I get talking to the guy from the Veterans Memorial Museum, and we offered our tent, which the sun was beating down on, so at least it was warm inside and out of the wind. So we got Charles settled in, and then I decided to make coffee, and I looked at him and I said, coffee? He just lights up, and he just goes, yes. And I said, black? A huge smile. So got him a cup of black coffee. Somebody else brought him some fresh baked cookies. A little while later, the fellow from the Veterans Museum just comes up to me and he says, that is the happiest World War II veteran on the planet right there. Mm-hmm. We managed to see him at a couple other events before over the next year or two before he passed away.
So there's at one point, it had been cold, but we had the sun right in front of us at one point. So Haley and I are laying down in this wondrous sunspot, sprawled out. Pretty sure my Tim Hortons cup, I probably just finished it, just laying next to me. And this group of either Brits or GIs comes up and it's just like, paint me like one of your French Canadians. I thought that was perfect phrasing, beautifully hilarious.
I will finish off with on the Friday before we went off and found ourselves a very nice Applebee's to have dinner at. There was one of the reenactors came up to us, one of the other groups. He said, you guys came all the way out here. He said, it's supposed to rain tomorrow. You have all this canvas set up, because we had flies and tents and stuff like that. He says, what I think you should do is, he said, how often do you have your group this close to one of the best aviation museums in the world, meaning the National Air Force Museum at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. And I was like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. He says, it's going to rain tomorrow. Why don't you take down your canvas, pack it up tonight before that rain happens, and then have a leisurely day tomorrow. Go out, have breakfast, get yourselves in uniform, and then go down to then go down and spend the day at the museum and enjoy that. So that's going to be the beginning of our next episode, along with more about the wonderful Hotel Ramadi and other things that happened to us on the way home, because you're cursed once you go to Xenia, Ohio. Thank you very much for listening. This again has been Merlin's Barn, broadcasting from where?
Fort Blanket, south of the Yukon.
Should you have any stories that you want to share, any adventures that came to mind, any detours that were popped into your brain because of something that you heard today, please send them to us because we want this to be a community effort. And you can send those to Merlin's Barn, MERLINSBARN @gmail.com. You can also find us at Substack. Merlin's Barn at Substack. You can just search that. I don't know the URL off the top of my head. And you can contact us through there. You can also contact us through Merlin's Barn Instagram. Although, once again, if you're going to send us something longer, send it by the email because it'll be easier to deal with. And you folks have a wonderful rest of your morning, day, evening, whichever. And hopefully we'll be talking to you soon.